Hello, hello, hello. So we've got a few things to talk about today. Pretty interesting week so far. We have the Supreme Court making a few key decisions, one on the Second Amendment, which I am a strong supporter of, needless to say. Those of you that watch the channel know. And then, obviously, I've been a little bit on hiatus the past few weeks because I was in the middle of moving. I'm pretty much settled in now, so you're going to see more content. I actually just did an interview with Nicole Solis just a few days ago. That was a fantastic interview. She's just awesome. So I suggest you watch it if you haven't. And you'll see we talked about, the curriculum, what they're teaching kids all across the nation right now with gender theory, critical race theory, all of these crazy things they're trying to indoctrinate your children with. So check that out if you haven't. And today I just want to talk a little bit about the Supreme Court. There's some more decisions coming. Possibly they're going to overturn Roe versus Wade. And that's going to spark the 2020 riots round 2, except worse. Because many are saying that they are going to overturn Roe versus Wade. And it's going to happen maybe tomorrow, if not in the next couple of weeks. And when the Supreme Court does do that, it will essentially enable the states to make abortion legal or illegal instead of it being federally just outright legal. That's essentially what it will do. It will push it to the states, make it a states issue, and you're going to have probably at least a third of the United States, in terms of the states, making abortion illegal or highly restricting it. You might even have some states, like I would suspect Oklahoma and Alabama, maybe Arkansas and Texas, just outright making it illegal from conception. And this is going to piss off the woke extremists. And this is going to piss off a lot of the left-leaning types. And you're going to have organized NGOs, the George Soroses, and all of these types of groups organizing, like BLM. Underground, you'll have Antifa organizing too. You have this group, Ruth With Us, I think it's called, or something like that. A couple of other groups that are very, very staunch pro-abortion groups that are going to be organizing and protesting. So you're going to have, the blue-haired types, the Antifa types with their black masks and the black bloc, outfits. And then, of course, the opportunists, which are usually the BLM types, going around robbing people, looting, setting things on fire, beating up old folks for no reason, stealing from the small businesses in their local communities or nearby communities. Hello, everyone. Yes, we are live. Tell me if I'm coming in. I'm just looking at the chat, by the way. Tell me if I'm coming in okay, because my computer is just being super slow today. I don't know what it is. I think it's because, I moved, so the internet connection's a little wonky. I don't know if that has something to do with it, but it just seems like every time I click something, it's like super slow. So I might have to buy a new computer. I have a MacBook Pro and the thing doesn't even work. It is getting old, but hello, hey Faith Fuego, Mandy's Sugar Shack. Mandy's Sugar Shack. I don't think I've seen you in my chat before. What's up, everyone? Yes. Good. Oh, I'm glad to hear it. Miss Maskless, of course. Hello. And by the way, and now before I get into some of the information here, I just want to talk about, I do want to say, if you haven't joined, become a Patreon member, because what I'm going to start doing, I think, is having a link specifically, only that Patreons can see, that people can come in and, almost like a call, like taking calls. I'm going to have to change the stream format a little bit to enable a link so people can come in and ask questions or just contribute to the stream, because there's a lot of, Patreons, I have a few that have awesome things to contribute, like Miss Maskless, for instance. She'd be fantastic. Just pop on in and say hello, and whoever, if you want to ask a question. So I'm gonna start doing that, maybe having like a round table, or something like that style. more benefits that way. So yeah, if you haven't, become a Patreon member and like and share this video, needless to say. So anyway, guys, I'm going to get into some of this info. So anyway, look, besides the Roe versus Wade thing, which could happen, which is probably going to happen really soon, we had the Supreme Court pretty based overturn a gun law in New York State requiring proper cause for a concealed carry permit. What this means basically is that so a lot of these blue states, in case you didn't know, if you live in a red state, you might not know, but they require some sort of like reason for you to get your concealed carry permit, for you to be able to exercise your Second Amendment rights, even though the Constitution says shall not be infringed. I mean, it's extremely clear. It couldn't be more clear. Shall not be infringed. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. I don't know what the argument is here. I don't even know how any of these laws were passed to make it so that you can only have a 10-round magazine, to make it so that you can't have this gun because it looks scary, right? To make it so that you can't have suppressors or silencers, which are, by the way, a safety item that you put on the end of your gun so that it doesn't destroy your ears if you have to use it. That's what silencers are for. That's what I don't get about it. It's like it's a safety product. I just, it's mind-blowing how much these people really don't understand about the Second Amendment and guns in general. It's like a bunch of bureaucrats, a bunch of nerds from Harvard and Yale and Princeton that we're in a few secret societies like Skull and Bones that just want to, come up with these goofy ideas to restrict your rights. And really, it's about banning guns in America. It's about incrementalism to eventually make it so you can't have a gun at all. They want to make it like the UK or Australia, which you can have some guns, but for the most part, you can't have guns for self-defense in these countries. And they want to incrementally take away your Second Amendment right here in the U.S. So the Supreme Court struck this down. It was a law in New York requiring proper cause, which means you need to give a reason why you want to carry a gun, and it has to be a valid reason. So if you say, for instance, or if you said before this happened, before this ruling, if you said that you just wanted to carry a gun on you in New York because you want to be able to defend yourself, they would usually reject your application for a permit. But now that is supposedly going to be illegal, and they're going to have to grant anybody who applies a concealed carry permit. And this is the way it should be, obviously. And this is the way it is in a lot of states, actually, even some of the blue states, And there are some states, though, like New York, that were just rejecting things because they felt. Am I back? I don't know. Let me see. I think I might be. Oh my God. You've got to be kidding me. What a piece of crap computer. I need a new computer. I don't even know if this is working. Hold on. I have to check and make sure my own stream is working. Just give me 1 second. It could be. I don't know. Let's see. No, it's just, I don't know. Oh, let me see. It's working. There we go. Holy crap. Well, there you go, everyone. So this is the real deal, live. Okay, so when things go wrong, you see it, and that's the beauty of it, right? So yeah, I think I need a new computer. I have this MacBook Pro. I bought it back in 2014 or 15, and it's about that time. MacBook Pro is a good computer, and it's fantastic. But after 7 or 8 years, it's kind of like maybe it's time for a new one. And they're just so expensive, though, so I don't know if I have the money. Anyways, what was I saying? Where was I? Oh, we're talking about guns, right? And hello, everyone in the chat. Thanks for being so patient. I see y'all in there. Man, Bear, Pig. Crystal Jean, what's up? Yeah, it's just, of course. Yeah, par for the course for a targeted channel. That's the other thing, too, right? This channel is targeted. I mean, it's pretty obvious when some of the videos I post and some of the streams get thousands of views, and then I'll post something every now and then and it'll just get 600 views because YouTube doesn't want you to see it. I don't know. It's kind of weird. So let's go back to this. Let's also make sure that this is showing the correct screen here, and it is. And what do I have on the screen? It's sudden adult death syndrome. We'll talk about that in a second. Yeah, isn't that weird? Isn't that weird? Sudden adult death syndrome is trending. So anyway, we're talking about SCOTUS, and we're talking about how they wanted to just restrict your gun rights in some of these blue states, but SCOTUS knocked that down. So that's good to see. That's good to see. Now, that being said, let's talk about the Roe versus Wade thing that is going to pop up. It might happen tomorrow. We'll be in for a show. Let's put it that way. A summer of rage. And that's what I titled this stream, I think. Impending court decision, summer of rage. And that will be crazy. So this is out of New York Post. There was an Alito decision handed down by the High Court Thursday. Just not that Alito decision. With only 1 day left on the Supreme Court schedule to release options in this year's term, or opinions, I should say, in this year's term, Americans are still waiting for a ruling on the intensely watched case that is expected to overturn the landmark Roe versus Wade abortion ruling. The High Court handed down 4 opinions on Thursday that involved voter ID laws, state execution methods, Alito on Miranda warnings, and the constitutionality of a New York concealed carry law. And also, by the way, the Supreme Court, I believe, ruled, which is pretty pertinent, especially if you watch the interview that I had with Nicole Solis a few days ago. They ruled that your tax dollars, if you want them to, can go to private schools, and specifically religious private schools, which I think is fantastic. And I don't want to go, all right, so even though we're talking about the Supreme Court here, I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant because it does apply to one of their decisions that they made. Affirming that your tax dollars can go to religious schools, that's Christian schools, Catholic schools, etc., if you want them to. You know, before it was that if it was an overtly religious school that taught biblical principles, that your tax dollars supposedly couldn't go to the school, right? Your public funds couldn't go to the school even if you wanted it to, even if you elected it to. That's, you know, what your city or state is taxing you for. You should be able to choose where that goes. And if you want it to go to a religious institution, school, whether it be an elementary school or whatever it is, that your kid is going to go to, that should be allowed. It's your money, right? So the Supreme Court just ruled on that this week too. That's huge. And look, for those of you out there that are very, very staunch in this idea, I don't really know. It's not really a big topic anymore, but there's some people who are staunch on this idea that you have to have a separation of church and state. To some extent, yes, because you don't want like just, you know, religious institutions running everything. But to a huge degree, I don't think there's even such a thing, because the government, I believe in small government, but even with small government, the laws have to come from a moral foundation. And that moral foundation is based on your spiritual beliefs, essentially. There's no such thing as this idea of a secular government. Like, it just doesn't exist, because at the core of what we legislate as what we think society should look like, and what is wrong and what is right, and what is good and evil. That is how our laws are formed, right? We don't want evil to prevail. We don't want, things to happen that are contrary to our moral foundation. And so we legislate based on that. So there's no such thing as a separation of church and state. The legislatures, the government, the culture gets its morals from somewhere. And it used to be Christianity. And then the further we've gotten away from that moral foundation in the government, the more evil the government has gotten. And you could always make this argument that the government is evil no matter what, but it could be a little less evil if, at the very least, it had the illusion or the attempted illusion of having a moral foundation of Christianity. If it at least had to maintain that surface level, like, oh, we have Christian morals, we would have a better government. Of course, there would still be corruption because humans are flawed. We're fallen, just as Christianity teaches. I'm a Christian, obviously. We're all fallen. So if you have humans running government, even if it's a small government, there's going to be corruption. It's going to be, even church, you're going to have all kinds of churches with priests and pastors that are doing bad things in some cases because humans are fallen. There's always going to be these instances in church and state. It doesn't matter what you do. So, this idea that you have to have those two separate, it's an illusion. We have a theocracy right now. It's just not based on Christian theology. It's based on secularism and really nihilism. So the new priests, they used to be pastors, like in New England, right? When you go back to like the Puritan days of pre-1800s, it really kind of was a theocracy, especially before the country declared independence. You had, the colonies. There were still British colonies, and it really kind of was a theocracy in many ways. That had some bad consequences in some cases, but it had a lot of good consequences too. Like you had the Salem witch trial, which probably wasn't really the best moment in American history. Let's be honest, it wasn't the best moment of the American Christian theocracy that existed. But now it's still the same thing, except now it's just based on nihilism, and the new priests and pastors are basically just a bunch of loser nerds at universities and in the media and in Hollywood that are creating the morals that they just make up that are really just based on, I guess you could say they're really based on Satanism, right? Because let's not get into the secret societies, boys. Let's not get too far into conspiracy world, even though it's all true, boys. It's all true. Yeah, those are the new priests and pastors, and we now have a theocracy that's based on basically the Antichrist, right? So, I mean, just think about it. All the corporations and all of the government institutions are waving the pride flag. What does pride stand for? Well, it stands for homosexuality and, it really just stands for homosexual acts, right? Engaging in homosexual acts and also mutilating yourself to be something that God didn't make you to be, right? So if you're like a transgender or you want to become, a furry or a cat or something, I don't know, like, any of these things, well, that's what you're going to do, and that is something that is contradictory to biblical teachings, needless to say. And so it's kind of based on this anti-Christian. Oh my goodness, here we go. Hold on. My phone is going off and it's very loud. Hold on, I'll be right back. Ah, wonderful. Anyways, yes. So, yeah, it's based on pride now, and they're all waving the pride flag because that is the theology that rules the society. And what is pride? If you look at church history, if you look at Christian theology, it's the deadliest of the 7 deadly sins. It is responsible for Lucifer's initial separation with God, as a matter of fact. So it's damn near poetic that they call the homosexual revolution and all of these corporations and government and the cathedral waving the pride flag, they call it pride. Isn't that just poetic? I mean, it's just so fitting. It's like something out of it's like that song, Isn't It Ironic, Don't You Think? A little too ironic. Yeah, I really do think. I'm ranting, I know. Anyways, so that was one of the decisions that the Supreme Court made, and I'm happy with it. I think it's a good thing. Anyways, so the Roe v. Wade decision is coming possibly tomorrow. Lots of riots, just remember. And we have this breaking news here. The Department of Homeland Security is communicating with Catholic churches and pregnancy centers, telling them to be prepared for, quote, a night of rage by abortion groups pledging extreme violence the night of the Dobbs decision. Dobbs is the case that they're deciding on. So, night of rage, more like a summer of rage. You think it's going to stop after one night, really? And you think the Department of Homeland Security is really going to try to protect anybody from this? Probably not. I don't think the cathedral, the establishment, whatever you want to call it, cares about Christian churches, Catholic churches at all. I don't think the police will adequately protect any of these places. I think that, the sacrifice of the unborn is too valued by the establishment for them to really protect anybody going against it, or anybody just existing in opposition to it. So the pro-abortion groups will probably get away with a lot of what they're planning to do. It's really sad, and I just want to caution everybody to be prepared. Your church, when you go to church, after this decision is made, I know I will be, concealed carrying, right? Isn't it? I wonder, sometimes I do wonder if this is all planned out. The concealed carry decision, and then now you're having the Roe versus Wade decision, and you're going to have nights of rage. A lot of armed people at these churches for sure. So it's one thing to be outside and protesting. I'm not opposed to protesting. I'm not. Like peaceful protesting. If I'm against the pro-abortioners, but if they want to protest outside a church, waving their signs and just chanting, I'm not saying that should be like cracked down upon by the police, right? If they're peacefully protesting, but you got to watch out, because once that line is crossed into, it's like CNN said when they were covering the BLM riots of 2020, they're mostly peaceful. That iconic video, I should say, of them reporting on the BLM riots, right? And in the background, there's a building on fire. There's cars on fire. And the CNN reporter is telling you straight to your face, as things are on fire in the background, that the protests are mostly peaceful. So what is peaceful? The establishment will just probably tell you that burning down things are peaceful. And so maybe I am against peaceful protesting. Anyways, let's see what you guys are saying. Make sure my stream didn't shit the bed already. Again, let me see. Okay. Where's the chat? Here we go. Hello, everyone. Stay strapped. That's right. Mandy Sugar Shack in the house. Man, I love it. I love the zeal. Did you mean bias instead of base? If they can kill their babies, they'll kill you. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Like, what kind of moral framework do you have to think that it's okay to destroy an unborn child. Like, I just don't understand it. I never will, ever. You know what I think it is? I don't think they actually reflect and meditate on their beliefs. I don't think they actually believe what they believe. I think they're just told to believe something, and they're sort of like wet robots. They're meat puppets that are programmed, and they just follow their programming, and they don't really have a deep introspection of what they believe. You know, they were never faced with any sort of adversity to make them reflect and think like, are my beliefs accurate? Do my beliefs make sense? What do I believe? It's not that they're not capable of it. It's more that they just haven't been prompted to do that. And that's what I think an awakening is. That's the difference between somebody who is awakened, who at least has the ability to question authority, question the media, question quote unquote science, question the government. It's the people who have faced enough adversity or enough even self-doubt to question their own beliefs, right? So if they were raised that way, if you were raised like I was raised to, I wasn't really raised politically. It was kind of raised apolitically, but I grew up until probably I was about 19, 18, basically also being pro-choice, but I came to the point where I just had to, confront my own beliefs. Am I doing things correctly? Are my beliefs accurate, right? Like I said before, right? All of these things. And once I did that and meditated on it enough and looked at both sides of all these issues and opened my mind and was receptive to new information, that's when I had an awakening. I realized, well, you know what? There's a lot of stuff going on this planet, and there's a lot of beliefs that I thought were, not moral that are moral, things like that, whatever. So, yeah, it's really interesting. So that's coming. Let's read more in this tweet from Leela Rose. This is the most coordinated and aggressive domestic terrorism in our nation today, all because extremists are angry that they might not get to kill children in the womb on demand without limit. Yet there is a virtual silence from Joe Biden, Speaker Pelosi, and most media groups. Why? Is that rhetorical, really? Why? Really? Like, I can't even imagine Joe Biden or Speaker Pelosi trying to quell the rhetoric of the pro-abortionists. I can't even imagine that ever happening. They could burn down the entire country. And, well, actually, you know what? When the Democrats are in power, they might clamp down a little bit more on the riots than when Trump was in power. Because they don't want to look like society is collapsing under their watch. So maybe I kind of take that back. If it gets violent enough, I do think actually the Democrats will go police state. I do, because they want to win an election, right? So they have the 2022 midterms coming up, which is probably going to be a red wave, but they want to try to quell it as much as possible, but at the same time they're going to let a lot of it go, and they won't prosecute anybody caught doing these things. Let's put it that way. They might clamp down in the moment and send some riot police out there if it gets violent. They might try to stop some of these things from happening, but the people they catch committing arson, engaging in murder and violence, and, creating their own autonomous zones, whatever they want to do, right? Like, remember Chaz, the Seattle or whatever it was, autonomous zone in 2020? Oh, was that a shit show. They literally had their own supposed nation with their own supposed security, and some of these people ended up murdering like teenagers, and nobody cared. Like the media just let it go, didn't hold them accountable. The police let it happen. The whole thing, and so the same thing will be happening to a certain degree. They'll probably try to quell it a little bit in the moment, but they're not going to prosecute any of these people caught doing these evil things, right? Pregnancy centers, this is what pisses me off the most. It's not only the churches they're going after pregnancy centers. You guys know what those are? Pregnancy centers are places where women can go to check on if they're pregnant and stuff, but you know, they're basically pro-life, so they try to talk girls out of getting an abortion. Obviously, they just try to talk them out of it. They just try to say, hey, look, you don't have to do this. You know, we'll help you with the pregnancy. We'll set you up even if you want to put the baby up for adoption. You know, abortion isn't the way to go. So that's all a pregnancy center does, is it helps women. I think they might even help with like birth control and stuff. And they help with women's health and pregnancies and stuff. But they also, with the women that are trying to get the abortion or thinking about it, they try to talk them out of it simply. I mean, oh, that's so evil, right? The pro-abortionist they think that's evil. They think that's evil. Why is that evil? Just talking a girl who wants to get an abortion into giving the baby up for adoption instead? How is that evil? I just don't get it. Yeah. Very, very destructive. Very satanic. Anyways, so that's going on, and that's going to continue, of course. And now there are many who are saying this will trigger like a division of the United States, or at least it will facilitate that quite a bit. And I think we are heading in that direction. Let's be honest. You know, I think the U.S. is kind of splitting up. I think there is absolutely no question. There's no way we're going to get along with these people. You know, the people that want to murder babies and have gay pride parades in front and invite your children, and you know, engage in open sodomy on the streets, and you know, give children puberty blockers and sterilization drugs, and indoctrinate them to be racist against the whites, who want to push Satanism in schools. The people who want to take away your guns, to want to restrict free speech, and you know, basically have a communist dystopia. I don't think we're ever going to get along with them, you know, especially if they don't want to compromise, especially if they literally just can't think, and they just are violent. Like we're just not going to get along, right? So I do agree that the United States will separate. Will it be a civil war? Like you see these guys like Tim Pool, they're always talking about civil war. I think he's kind of right about the Civil War thing, but I don't think it's going to look like, you know, Civil War Part 1, where you had in the 1850s and 60s, you know, lines of military armies shooting each other, and, you know, cannons being fired and all of this. I don't think you're going to see that even in the modern context with like AR-15s and fighter jets, and you know, no. It's not going to look like that. It's going to be something along the lines of unprecedented division and legal precedents being set, secession movements, definitely lots of skirmishes, protesting and violence, but not on an organized level, and there will be incidences that are violent, no doubt. You know, you might even have like you remember in the 60s we had certain things like Kent State, you know, like you might remember like Like in China, you had Tiananmen Square. These things probably will happen. Violent circumstances and violent situations, but I don't think that it will be like an organized, all-out war like we saw in the 20th century and in the 19th century with the World Wars and the U.S. Civil War Part 1. But it is going to be a civil war effectively. We're already in a civil war. It's just manifesting as a cultural war, an economic war, digital war. But it's going to continue in that direction to the point of separation of the United States, to the point of parallel economies and parallel societies and parallel cultures. This is a good thing, I think. There's no other way out of this. I don't even think it's a good thing. It's inevitable. It's necessary. It's just what's going to happen. I think both sides will be better off, but of course the aggressors, the New World Order, right? The Great Reset types are going to try to aggress upon us who just want to be left alone, right? Us on the correct side of history, right? On the side of good, they want to aggress upon us as we try to separate, and they will do everything they can to destroy us as we do that, and that's where the skirmishes will happen, of course, and that's what you're going to see, I think, with Roe versus Wade decision. They're going to send their Antifa goons out to intimidate people, like they already did with Brett Kavanaugh, right? Of course, Kavanaugh's a shill anyway, but they were protesting outside his house before all these decisions, and they're still doing that, I think. And you had an attempted assassination of Kavanaugh last week. The media didn't even report on it. Some guy was arrested. He was about to go into Kavanaugh's house and kill him. And he said it was because, I forget if he said it was because of the gun ruling that they were about to make, or because of the Roe versus Wade. But I mean, it's all one beast, really. This is what we got going on. So we also have the Texas GOP pushing for a referendum to decide if the state will secede from the U.S. Like I said, now, is this going to happen right away? I don't know, but this is just one step closer. Texas will probably be the first to secede if any state's going to secede, right? They used to be actually their own country. A lot of people don't realize that. For a short period of time, Texas was its own country. I forget exactly when. I think it was in the 1800s. At some point, for a short period of time, Texas was its own country. So, I mean, they're big enough. They have a robust enough economy and pool of natural resources and population and all of this to be their own country. And so, anyway. And this is out of the MSN. In its latest platform document, the Texas GOP has suggested that it might secede from the U.S. In the document, the state GOP called for a referendum on secession in 2023. So they're going to be voting on it. 2023. Here we go, baby. The referendum will determine if Texas should reassert its status as an independent nation. Reassert. Like I said, they used to be a nation for some time. The Texas GOP is pushing for a referendum on seceding from the U.S., a split that could lead to the state becoming an independent nation. Based, dude. The state GOP outlined its intention to press for such a referendum in a document from its Platforms and Resolutions Committee, wherein it specified its demands that the state holds a vote on the matter. The document was produced in connection with the Texas Republican Party's convention in Houston, during which it also voted overwhelmingly to reject the legitimacy of the 2020 election. Well, shucks, that sounds a lot like the pretext for a Civil War disagreement. I mean, we're already in a Civil War in many ways. on January 6, 2021, according to the media, there was an attempted insurrection. Okay, so there was a group of so-called conservative, so-called Trump supporters that attempted to take over the state capitol. But of course, the mainstream media will scoff at you if you say we're in some sort of civil conflict or civil war. But they're the ones at the same time claiming that the insurrection was the worst thing since Pearl Harbor. Okay, and it wasn't even an insurrection. Okay, that's just the narrative. It just shows that their narrative that they're giving us, it tells us we're in a civil war. Meanwhile, they turn around and they say that we're not. And, you know, we need to become united. I think we need to divide. I think we need more division. More division. Okay? I don't buy all this crap, all this China fear-mongering. Oh, if the U.S. divides, then China will come and invade us, and we won't be a united front, and they'll come and they'll take over. Bullshit. Give me a break. They act like if there wasn't a greater threat of China or something like that, I think even though we don't get along, I think Texas will probably side with the rest of the country and just fight with us if that were the case. But I don't think that is the case because the China fear-mongering I'm sick of. Yes, China is... But you got to understand, there's people above all this, and I talk about this all the time. There's a great reset, globalist new world order, controlling all these people as pawns. And China is really just a beta test / strong arm of, these globalist new world order types. The Henry Kissingers, the Klaus Schwabs, the George Soroses, the Bill Gateses, the Ted Turners, right? The Bushes. So, these are all acting in collusion with each other to use countries like China to do things that they want to do here in our country too, and in the West, right? So I don't buy this fact that, or this idea that, China is fully acting on its own autonomy. To some degree they are, but on another layer they're really not. It's complicated. Don't get me wrong. But a lot of this is being orchestrated at higher levels. While at the same time, some of the people below these globalist types that really are pulling the strings, some of the people below them, though, do have some forms of autonomy and have their own goals at the same time. So, the world isn't black and white. It's more shades of gray. Moving on in the article. The document, which contains a section on sovereignty, calls for the state to hold a vote and outlines the Texas Republican Party's opinion that the federal government has impaired its right to locally self-govern. Yeah, many ways they have, for sure. Per the document, the Texas GOP proposes that any federal mandated legislation that infringes upon the 10th Amendment rights of Texas should be ignored, opposed, refused, and nullified. Yeah, I mean, that reminds me, by the way, I think we're already heading toward this direction of splitting into different countries. Just look at COVID, the results of COVID during the lockdowns, the lockdown crisis, because it wasn't a COVID crisis, it was a lockdown crisis, right? During the lockdown crisis, it really highlighted this idea that every state is sort of its own country. It was in many ways, COVID just accelerated this direction the country is going in, where it's splitting up, because you had different mandates in different states during the lockdown crisis that differed greatly to a huge degree. Like, you would be in one state and everybody would have to wear a mask, and then you'd cross the border and nobody had to wear a mask. It was unbelievable how different some of these states were. You had one state where all the gyms and all the restaurants were closed, and then the state next door, or a couple states away, maybe just an hour drive, everything was open. No masks. You had one state where schools were closed and everything was digital. Another state just down the street where it's totally different. Night and day. I mean, to me, that really just highlighted this idea that the states are kind of already their own countries, and it accelerated this direction that the country is going in. People got used to that once COVID hit. They saw the stark difference of what the different states can do, and how much your life can change by moving to a new state based on the laws there. That it's kind of like people got used to this idea, like, well, the states already are their own countries in many ways. So I think it's just moving more in that direction. Moving on in the article here, Texas retains the right to secede from the United States, and the Texas legislature should be called upon to pass a referendum consistent thereto, the document states. In the document, the Texas GOP also urged state lawmakers to bring a vote to the people of Texas to determine whether or not the state of Texas should reassert its status as an independent nation per the state's GOP proposal. This vote would be on the ballot in 2023, so the people would vote. I'm not sure it'll pass, but that'd be so cool if it did. That'd be so cool. Yeah, I think if it doesn't now, it will eventually. And before we go into the next topic there, because there's so much to talk about here. Virus geography. Yes, second horizon. Exactly. Virus geography. The more south you went, the more based it got. No, not really. Because New Hampshire was was pretty good. Pretty good with stuff. So was Montana. 50 Shades of Grey is Press's favorite book. Oh, yeah, totally, man. Yeah, right. Texas seceding would mean Democrats win every national election forever. Just saying, without Texas electoral votes, Republicans always lose nationally. That's from Damio. Yeah, maybe. But also, I think it would encourage other states to secede and become their own countries too, or maybe just don't join Texas, and then everybody would just have to move to those areas. Hopefully, there'd still be free travel amongst the new formed countries, but also you got to remember too that no, you're right. I mean, if you think about the U.S. and the electoral system, they might shift it around a bit in some way to make it a little more fair, although I don't think they would, because if you have, yeah, you're right, if Texas leaves, it would make the United States effectively like Canada in terms of how it's governed, like the Democrats, the left always winning, but the left always wins anyway. So, I mean, they cheat. Who cares? It's better off that these countries or these states secede and become their own countries, because then it will start a ripple effect. It will start a wave. If one state does it, if Texas pioneers this and it becomes their own country and starts succeeding and thriving and being an awesome country, other states will join that movement. I have no doubt about it. So, yeah, I don't necessarily buy that as being a bad thing. I think it might be best because then if the rest of the country just turns completely leftward and Democrat because Texas leaves and every election the far left wins, well then the rest of the country will just collapse and have to learn from its mistakes quicker. You get this idea of accelerationism, which has its merits. We might be better off just collapsing completely at this point. I say that somewhat ironically, but in another way, it's true. It's like ripping off the Band-Aid, like in Soviet Russia, in the Soviet Union, things had to get really, really bad, and it had to collapse for it to go in the right direction, at least in some regard. In some ways, they're definitely better off with what they have now than what they had with the Soviet Union. I mean, not that I'd want to live in Russia now or back then, but back then it was way worse. So. Yeah, I'm in support of states going their own way. I support self-determination. I think all countries and states and groups, communities should have the right to secede from the greater country they're a part of if the values no longer line up. How can we continue to live together anymore? I don't see how it's possible. I just don't. I don't see how this country can stay together. All right. Crystal Jean in the chat identifies as a bumblebee. And she's claiming I have to deal with it. Well, shucks. Shucks. Well, I don't know what the pronouns are for that. B and Bay? B and Bay? Huh? Boo and B? Is it Boo and B? Booby? I don't know. Yeah, that's funny though. I'll identify as a bumblebee. Norman Koch says, I can't wait to watch leftists burn their cities to the ground. Yeah, as long as you don't live in one. Because I'm sure there's some people watching like, hey man, I'm in Austin or I'm in New York. Calm down. I don't want to see that. Well, it's time to get out of the cities. Let's be honest, It is. Like, if you're still in the cities, I understand sometimes, like, life, you just can't for whatever reason. Maybe you don't have the money. Maybe you're stuck in, like, a job and you can't get out of it or something. You got family you got to take care of, whatever. But, yeah, I'd get out of the cities ASAP. Like me, I'm outside, like, a small city. Like, I'm outside Providence. You don't really see rioting in Providence. Not too bad. It really is, like, it's like a poser type city. Like, even the left, it's controlled by the left, don't get me wrong, but they're all posers, so none of them actually engage in any violence. There's violence, but it's like all crime and gang related. And I'm still outside the city, so, and I'm armed to the teeth, so I'm not really that worried. Vrai Lumiere. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but cool name. Thank you, Faith. Oh, wait, you're just talking to someone in the chat? Wait. Thank you, Faith, Hope, and Charity's Homestead. We should be getting discharged tomorrow. Okay. So, you're just talking amongst yourselves there. Sorry about that. Yeah, so, yeah, we'll continue here. The Daily Twaddle says, the thing that really separates Texas is our rich and well-known history of resisting tyranny, and that is a big running theme in our state, and they haven't been able to undo it. Yeah, I know, yeah. Texas is based, man. Texas is awesome. It's probably the coolest state in the whole country, let's be honest. Yeah, definitely. I have no doubt about it. I do worry that Texas could swing left a little bit, because of all the Californians moving there, and all the New Yorkers moving there, and the immigration from Mexico and South America. But I will say this: there is one caveat with the immigration thing. Although I'm totally opposed to immigration, I'm even opposed to legal immigration. I'm not just opposed to illegal immigration. I'm opposed to legal immigration as well. But I will say this, especially from Mexico, some of these countries in South America, a lot of them are heavily Christian, and they're turning more Republican. Or I'm not like a huge supporter of the Republican Party per se, but they're turning more toward conservative politics, I'll say, because they're seeing all of this psychotic, like, pride, flag-waving nonsense, and it contradicts their morals, right? A lot of them are Christians, a lot of them are Catholics, and they're opposed to abortion. They're opposed to gay marriage and some of these things that, as Christians, many of us here in America are opposed to as well. So there is some compatibility there with some of the Hispanics coming in. But they still, by and large, vote more left than the white Christian population of the United States. So that's still a problem, but more and more that's changing. We'll see how that goes. It's a bit of a white pill. That's good. Yeah, Mexicans are naturally right-leaning. That's true. They're either, though, some of them aren't engaged in politics, and they don't really care. They just want to be left alone, which a lot of, white Christians too. But yeah, you're right. Absolutely. Definitely way more compatible with American right-leaning Christian culture, the white Christian culture here than other groups from the third world. Probably, out of all the third world countries you're looking at in the world, the Mexicans, like if you're going to bring anyone in, I guess it'd be like them, right? So I don't know. So yeah, there are a lot of them too that want the free stuff, and that's a problem. That's a problem, man. The Daily Twaddle says it's all a big show, though. Most people are conservatives, but they try to make it look like it's much closer than it really is in reality. You know how they be, right. Norman Koch says leftists don't want to compromise. They want you to capitulate or die. They are purposely pushing crap they know will not compromise. They know you will not compromise on. They are looking for a fight, and they will find one. Woof. Woof. Spicy, Norman Koch. I like it. Innovation HQ says, do you think the Uvalde shooting was a HAOX? Yeah, this is YouTube, guys. I'm not allowed to tell you whether or not I think that. I'm not allowed to tell you what my thoughts are. But I will say this. Actually, that's a really interesting segue into one thing I kind of want to talk about a little bit, which is, I'm not going to elaborate on it too much because this is YouTube. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm allowed to say on YouTube. Maybe I'm allowed to say it. I'm not sure. But this is pretty interesting and a little bit strange. Let's just put it that way. It's a little bit strange. I don't know what's going on. But Robb Elementary, the Uvalde school where this shooting happened in Texas, or is it Uvalde? I don't know. I don't watch the news, right? I just read news. So if I'm pronouncing it incorrectly, sorry. The Robb Elementary, Texas school, where 19 children and 2 teachers were killed in a mass shooting, will be demolished. Interesting. So they're going to demolish that. I think they did that with Sandy Hook, too, worth noting. Just demolish the school. So, yeah. Yeah, I already gave my 2 cents on that in a previous video, and I don't really want to elaborate too much more on it, but I do find this, interesting little factoid here. So they're going to demolish the evidence of what may have happened there, with that event, and we'll never, know more about that. So that's what's going to happen. Again, same thing they did to Sandy Hook after that happened. And that's really all I want to say about that, to be honest. You got to be careful here, guys. I will say this. It doesn't really matter what happened there. If heart goes out to the families, whatever, But the whole point is, what is this going to result in? What solutions, quote unquote, will our so-called leaders bring about to prevent this from happening again? And if those solutions don't make any sense, or if they restrict your right to bear arms or your right to free speech, that needs to be stopped. And it doesn't really matter. You could talk about these shootings all day, what happened, who did it, and why, and how the police stood down, and how they set up a perimeter and didn't let the parents come in and save their children, or whatever. You can talk about the narrative of what actually happened. But the real problem is what they're going to use this event to do. It doesn't really matter what happened. What really matters is, how do we protect our civil liberties? How do we protect our nation from these globalist, elitist types, these cosmopolitan, champagne, bourgeois socialists that want to take away your right to bear arms and want to take away your right to free speech and all of these things? The buck stops right there, because there are plenty of arguments we can make against those encroachments against our Constitution, right? Yeah. So they're demolishing it. Yeah, isn't that interesting? Well, there you go. Speaking of, and this really pissed me off. I'm not going to spend too much time on it here because, of course, not everybody watching is from Rhode Island. But if you are from Rhode Island, this is going to really piss you off. I was there at the State House when they voted on this, and they pulled some shady stuff here. Here in Rhode Island, they just passed 3 new gun laws. The most restrictive and the one that pisses off people the most is the restriction on magazines. So in Rhode Island, previous to this law being passed, you could own basically 30-round mags, right, for your AR or AK. I don't even think there was a limit on your magazines that you could have and how many rounds you could have in them. But now this issues a 10-round limit on all magazines. And there's no grandfather clause, so you're not grandfathered in. If you're caught with any magazines over 10 rounds, you will be a felon, or you'll be put in jail, you'll be breaking the law. And so they passed this, and by the way, they did it under the rug in a way that, or they did the end around, so to speak. I'm not going to get too much into like the Senate politics, and the House politics in Rhode Island, but it was struck down by the Senate Judiciary Committee at first. And then what they did is they said, we don't care what the Senate Judiciary Committee says. We're going to put the House bill directly to the floor to the full Senate, vote on it. And of course, because the full Senate is controlled by the Democrats, it passed. So now in Rhode Island, starting a few months from now, you're not going to be able to have any magazines over 10 rounds, and it's super disappointing, and I am so pissed. And you can't even have pre-ban mags. So even in Massachusetts, you can have pre-ban mags. So you can get magazines from before the law was created and still have like 30-round magazine in your AK or AR, or a 15-round Glock magazine, but it would have to be pre-ban. But in Rhode Island, they didn't even put that clause in, the grandfather clause. So it's going to make probably most of Rhode Island felons, because a lot of these people here in Rhode Island that have really your standard magazines for Glocks that have 15 rounds, or your standard magazine for an AR that has 30 rounds. They're not going to turn in these. They expect people to turn in these magazines. A lot of people aren't. Of course, I will. And also, I did lose some of my guns in a boating accident recently, so that was a real problem. I'm really upset about that. But, the magazines went along with it too. So, But yeah, I mean, this whole thing is just like very, 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 very sad. And another one of their bills was that they restricted the ability to purchase a firearm for anybody 18 to 21. So you have to be 21 now to purchase a firearm, I believe. And they restricted open carry of rifles and shotguns. So just a blatant, shall not be infringed. It says it right there. And we're taking this to court, of course. There's going to be a class action lawsuit. People in Rhode Island are gathering, and we are getting together, and we're putting forth a class action lawsuit against the government of Rhode Island, the state of Rhode Island. It's just draconian. It's totally, totally illegal. It's unconstitutional. They're not allowed to do it. And by the way, and this is worth noting, and this is very, very important. I want everybody to listen up here. Okay? So, of course, this was in the wake of, as a result of, prompted by the Uvalde shooting, right? That we just talked about, whatever. And let's think about it, okay? According to that narrative, the shooter did the entire event, the entire killing spree, with 10-round magazines. Okay? So it doesn't even make any sense. Many of these state senators, many of these House members that wrote the legislation, and the governor himself have used the Uvalde shooting as a sort of pretext to do this, when in the official narrative, this freaking guy who supposedly did this shooting, allegedly, whatever, was using 10-round magazines. He was carrying the 10-round magazines because he said that they were easier to keep in his pocket. So, okay, so you're just going to ban... that just doesn't make any sense, right? So, yeah, let's just ban 30-round magazines and 15-round magazines, even though the shooting that you're claiming prompted this whole thing, he used 10-round magazines anyway. And where does that number come from anyway, 10 rounds? Where does that even come from? Like, who decided 10 rounds? Why not 12? Why not 8? Doesn't make any sense. The whole thing is bullcrap, right? And then they just expect every single person in the whole state to turn in, like, it's just so ridiculous. At least have a grandfather clause. Like, they even tried, some of the Republicans tried to put forth a grandfather clause. You know, they wanted to put an amendment on. Say, look, okay, fine. You want to do this? Fine. But at least put a grandfather clause on so the people who already have their 30-round, 15-round mags, you know, if they forget to turn them in or something, or if they just don't watch the news, they're not like criminals now. No, they didn't accept that. Nope. Yeah. Oh, man, I was there at the State House when they passed this, too. I was there the whole time. Everyone's chanting. I hate protests, by the way. I hate protests. I just hate them. I think they're so cringy. Even coming from the right, like I was there to, like, be a body. You know, I just wanted to be a body there. And everyone's like, we got to chant. Like, I'm not chanting. This is so cringe, but I'm just here. And they're all chanting at the door of the state, you know, state house meeting with the senators in there, and I'm just like, this isn't gonna work. You could get, you know, 1,000 people to chant out here. It's not gonna work. You know, these are extremists. These are cutthroat, woke theologians. Like I said before, there's a theocracy. You know, they're religiously motivated by Lucifer himself to take away your guns. You know, I say that sort of tongue-in-cheek, but really not at the same time. And it's just really sad. And really, I'm not even kidding, guys. I'm saying this and I'm going on about it. And I know a lot of you don't live in Rhode Island, but it really just ruined my entire, like, month. I'm, like, really, really upset about this. Because I moved from Massachusetts to Rhode Island like a year and a half ago, and the first thing I did, because I was so excited, is I went and because you can't easily do it in Massachusetts. I went and I bought an AR-15, and you know they come with the 30-round mags and all of that, and then I bought an AK, and I was like, I thought I was so cool, and now they want to just make it illegal. Like, I can't even use my toys, you know? I can't even go to the gun range now with my 30-round mags. Luckily, you know, I'm just going to turn every single one in, and I'm going, well, I lost them in a boating accident, actually. So, you know, the whole thing is just like, makes me so pissed, just so mad. Anyways, guys. Climate action now. The California state flag is a rainbow flag, says the Daily Twaddle. Yeah, right. I know, right? Might as well be. Oh, man. It just makes me so mad. Anyways, let's move on. Yeah, I think I already sort of went over this. The DOJ respectfully disagrees with the Supreme Court gun ruling. So this is more on this idea of a lack of trust in institutions and a lack of coherence amongst them. The Biden administration, the DOJ, is respectfully disagreeing with the Supreme Court's gun ruling, and they said, quote, and this is important. This is important. This is a signature of a collapsing civilization. Okay? And I'm going to explain this. Quote, the Department of Justice remains committed to saving innocent lives by enforcing and defending federal firearms laws, partnering with state, local, and tribal authorities, and using all legally available tools to tackle the epidemic of gun violence plaguing our communities. So what they're at least alluding to here is that we don't care what the Supreme Court says. We don't care how they interpret the law. We're going to enforce the law however we feel like it. So it really plays into this idea that the institutions are basically losing all of their status and all of their power and all of their etiquette. Like, the faith in institutions amongst each other is collapsing. And so that is how you know that the system is dissolving. And if the balance of powers here in the U.S., that's what it's supposed to be, a balance of powers. If they just stop listening to each other, and there is no more balance of powers, and they all just start doing what they want to do and saying screw you to the other, that is the collapse of the country. And then at the same time, the people, us, right, the useless eaters, as they call us, are also losing faith in the institutions. So not only are they losing faith in each other, if they're losing trust in each other and they're not listening to each other, we're doing the same thing with them. And it's just going to dissolve. The whole country, it's done. This is the collapse of an empire. There's no doubt about it. But it's like we're living through history to such a palpable degree. Every day, it's like you can smell and taste and feel the despondence of U.S. culture and the Western civilization. It's just it's farting on itself. You know, it's not working anymore. But the good thing is, hopefully it will happen really soon, and in your lifetime or in your children's lifetime, they'll have an opportunity to build something and plant the seeds for something new to grow up out of it, something maybe even better. But it is really sad, and we got to take a lot of those things that Western civilization gave us, and we need to at least bring them into this new platform of like a new society, a new civilization, and make it something truly beautiful and honorable and virtuous. And that still can be done, but in the meantime, the collapse is just going to be very, very difficult for a lot of us and for everyone. And how we deal with it will define some of these seeds that are planted in this new civilization that is created out of the ashes of the United States and of Western civilization. I don't know what more to say about that. We just have to find our niche here. We have, it's really hard to define what I'm trying to say here. It's like, we gotta define our greater ethos of the soil and the medium in which we plant the new seeds. And we have the ability to create that because we're at a precipice, like a turning point in history. So, yeah, really interesting stuff. Now I want to show you guys something funny. Here's something that'll just maybe cheer you up a little bit. For those of you that know Carrie Lake, I don't know if you know Carrie Lake. She's running for governor in Arizona. This was this pretty epic moment that I just got to show it. I'm not a huge fan of Carrie Lake, but a lot of what she's saying is pretty based and all of that and good stuff. So, but of course, all these politicians are, politicians. But anyways, check this out. She talks to a CNN reporter. And this moment is just truly, truly amazing. So let's watch it.
Hi.
Carrie.
Hi.
Nice to see you. Campbell off in CNN.
You don't have a mask on anymore. What's going
We're
on?
outside. Do you have a minute
Wow.
to
Well,
chat?
we're 6 feet apart.
Do you have a minute to chat?
I'll do an interview.
Hold on. So let me restart. Just explain. So she's walking into like one of her rallies, Carrie Lake. She's obviously a GOP candidate, governor, and running for governor. And this CNN reporter walks up to her and tries to, I guess you could say, what do you call it, ambush her. And man, whew, check it out.
Hi.
Carrie.
Hi.
Nice to see you. Campbell off in CNN.
You don't have a mask on anymore. What's going
We're
on?
outside. Do you have a minute
Wow.
to
Well,
chat?
we're 6 feet apart.
Do you have a minute to chat?
I'll do an interview.
Okay.
As long as it airs on CNN Plus. Does that still exist? I didn't think so, because the people don't like what you guys are peddling, which is propaganda. Thank you.
Oh! It's kind of like definitely a lot of the boomers will see that and be like, "Oh, it's so based." But it is kind of based. If you look at this lady's face, this CNN reporter, Asian lady's face, man, oh. Yeah, I mean, you just got to watch this little video and really look at the whole dynamic of everything, the body language, and it really is a pretty epic moment. Of course, CNN Plus collapsed in on itself. So she goes, "Yeah, I'll do an interview, but only if it's on CNN Plus." Oh, wait, that doesn't exist anymore, does it? The reporter's like, "Oh, no, it doesn't." Yeah, we suck. Like, we suck. No one likes us. We can't make money. We're a zombie organization. It's like, oh, boy. It was pretty epic. It was pretty epic. More from some of these political types that, worth watching. Kind of based. I don't know. What do you guys think of DeSantis? I'm going to show you this clip. It's extremely based. Like, you'll never hear this from any mainstream politician. Like, it's probably the most based thing to come from any politician that has any sort of sway, So he's going on about the vaccines that are being issued to babies, right? That were just, I think, approved by the White House or something like that. So what do you guys think of DeSantis? Here's the thing. Take everything politicians say with a grain of salt. They're politicians. So the second they actually get, although he is governor, it's not like he's not in office. He's a very powerful man. Florida, it's a big state, and he has a lot of sway, needless to say. I mean, he's the governor of Florida. But, DeSantis for president, what happens with a lot of these people that make these empty promises like Trump? He was spouting a lot of pretty hardcore-based rhetoric, too, pretty anti-New World Order rhetoric even at times back in 2016, talking about the globalists, interviewing with dissident types like Alex Jones. Well, I don't really trust Alex Jones either, but if you just look at the rhetoric it would be something that's supportable, right? But then, of course, he got into office. Just look at some of the things that Trump did that really were a disaster, like with the rollout of Operation Warp Speed, with the mRNA vaccines and all of that. Yeah. Anyways, I guess there were a couple good things Trump did, but I'm not going to go into the Trump thing right now. So let's look what DeSantis said.
Trial.
They're all shills, but check it out.
Okay, questions? Yes, sir.
Governor, there's obviously a lot of controversy at the end of last week between your administration and the White House. What do you make of the White House?
He's being asked about the White House.
So the White House is lying about it. We surprise. Not surprised the White House would lie. Definitely not surprised that legacy media would amplify the lie, because that's what they do. The state of Florida, they came out with an article saying the state of Florida has not ordered, its Department of Health has not ordered mRNA jabs for the babies. Yes, we didn't. We recommend against it. We are not going to have any programs where we're trying to jab 6-month-old babies with mRNA. That's just the reality. And I think what happened was they thought somehow we would like be embarrassed by that. No, we're following the data. You look at these European countries, they are a lot of them don't even allow Moderna for under age 30, or they recommend against it. So that was always that. We still have not ordered it. We're not going to order it. Now, what they're saying is because practitioners and hospitals can order it, somehow we've reversed. I said from the beginning they'll be able to do that. We don't have the authority to prevent it. And quite frankly, if someone wants to make a different decision, I would just caution people, look at the actual data in the clinical trial. It is the weakest possible data that you could possibly see. Very small number of people. What the recommendation is from them doesn't even track the outcomes. It was something that, but people can ask their pediatricians. They can ask their doctors. What's the evidence of protection against severe disease? There was none in the clinical trial. But that's something that people would do. But for us, Joe Latipo, our Department of Health has looked at it. There is no proven benefit to put a baby with an mRNA. So that's why our recommendation is against it. That's different than prohibiting the use in Florida, which we don't have the authority to do. And quite frankly, we're confident people can make their own judgments on it. But I would say when you look at the trial, one of the things they did not have babies or very young kids who had recovered.
By the way, guys, I'm obligated to say here, because this is YouTube, we're really walking the line. How many videos I've been gotten taken down because of, disagreeing with the recommendations for certain things like what he's talking about here. I say that listen to the WHO. I am not allowed to agree with Ron DeSantis here. Whatever the WHO says for your medical decisions, and whatever the establishment doctors say, that you have to talk to your doctor, and whatever doesn't get me banned. Okay, guys, I don't know.
From COVID in the trial. So we
Whatever.
don't know what this will do for people that have recovered. But in their recommendation, they are recommending giving the mRNA shot to people, young babies and kids that have already recovered from COVID. They don't have any clinical data on that. And people have looked at some of this stuff and have recognized how that, and you know what? The White House is bragging that we're the only country that is trying to do mRNA shots for infants. And I'm just thinking to myself, well, wait a minute. There's nothing wrong with being the Lone Ranger if you're right. But the other countries in Europe that are going a different direction, similar to the direction Florida's gone, they have been right on COVID way more than Fauci and his crew have been throughout this whole thing. Remember, these are people in Washington that rejected the idea of natural immunity. For a year and a half, they said that the vaccine was better than prior infection. And every credible study that's been done has said that that's not the case. And so they've been wrong time and time again. They were wrong when they criticized me for having schools open. They wanted our kids locked out of school in the state of Florida. They were wrong when they criticized me for having businesses open, beaches, all these other things. And so this is an example where they are pushing this with very, very, very scant data. But again, people can make their judgments, but ask questions. And the fact of the matter is, I think what this whole year and a half has shown us is these regulatory agencies in the federal government have basically become subsidiaries of the pharmaceutical companies. They are not independent regulators. They basically are there to rubber stamp what Pfizer wants to do. So people can make their judgments.
Guys, listen to this heretic. Oh, here at Resisting the Reset, we totally support your vaccination. So please go and listen to your doctors.
On it, but we have not ordered any for the Department of Health. There's been absolutely zero change in
I
our
hate YouTube.
recommendations.
I hate
and
YouTube.
the recommendations, remember, we were the first state to recommend against 6 to 11-year-olds. We never had any state programs for any of that. There have been some practitioners that have ordered it, and some have gotten it. Most parents are not giving it for the kids with the MNRA, but some did, and I think it's the same thing. So this is a continuation of our policy that we've had in place really since the spring.
Yeah, so, I mean, DeSantis there, spitting some rhetoric that many of his constituents, I'm sure, would agree with there. And so, wow, yeah. You just don't hear that type of rhetoric from politicians, even in the GOP, even in the most skeptical communities of political types. This is almost like something you would hear on like BitChute or something. It's kind of it's a little bit it's a little bit shocking to hear he went that far. So yeah, pretty interesting stuff. So let me know what you guys think about that. I've been reading some of the chats. Let's see here. Miss Maskless. Wolf in sheep's clothing. Yeah, perhaps. I mean, it's tough because you don't know. Well, in some regard because you see what he's doing in Florida. It's not like he's not in power, right? So you'll hear some people will say once he gets elected to office, though, he'll change direction, and maybe if he was president, he would, right? Maybe this is a ploy, right? They do put forth shills. I mean, you look at a great example of this is what's his name there? The guy with the patch. I always forget his name. Dan Crenshaw, right? A member of the World Economic Forum's Young Global Leaders, Future Leaders, whatever it's called. It's like a group that the World Economic Forum sponsors of young political and like nonprofit type leaders too. I don't think it's just political people. I think they even have some scientists and stuff in there. But it's a lot of political people in Western countries that they're really sponsoring and putting forth and mentoring to basically be shills for the Great Reset and the World Economic Forum agenda, the Agenda 2030. Dan Crenshaw is one of them. You can go check this out. It's all public information. Forum for Young Global Leaders, I think it's called. WEF, Young Global Leaders. Tulsi Gabbard is a part of this group. Yeah, the Forum of Young Global Leaders. That's what it's called. The Forum of Young Global Leaders. It's a nonprofit sponsored by the World Economic Forum. And members of this group consist of Dan Crenshaw, Tulsi Gabbard. Who else? And these are shills, right? These are definitely shills. I mean, anybody, and I hear a lot of people supporting Tulsi Gabbard, and she is totally anti Second Amendment. She is pro-gun control. I mean, that right there is such a nail in the coffin for whether or not someone like that is trustworthy. It's just, I mean, you got to be so stupid to support someone like Tulsi Gabbard. She's hot. I get it. She's hot. Like, yeah, she's hot. Okay, she criticizes Joe Biden. She made Kamala Harris look like an idiot. Big deal. She has some common sense policies, but as soon as she got into office, it would be a disaster. It'd probably be worse than Biden. Like, I'm not even kidding. Because, Here, let's look at the community of this place. I don't know if I'm going to put this on the screen or not. Should I? I don't know. But Forum for Young Global Leaders. I mean, there's 107 pages. There's so many of them. That's the thing. And I don't feel like sifting through them all. But Tulsi Gabbard isn't on that list, and Crenshaw. Just, they're shills. I mean, it's pretty obvious. So, yeah. Obviously, I'm getting tired, huh? But what's his name? DeSantis isn't on that list, but it's something that does happen, and you can't trust all these politicians. You gotta take everything with a grain of salt. I don't know. It's worth watching. I do typically vote, so I mean, if it came down to it, just as a disclosure, and DeSantis ran for president, I'd vote for him. But it's not that I would trust him. But hey, I mean, I don't think I'd have anything to lose really. But yeah, I don't fully trust him. So that being said, we'll end it there, guys. It's been real, and like I said at the beginning of the stream, that kind of got cut short because computer shit the bed. I'm probably gonna be having Will Turbin on soon. From Fake Mike Real News. I don't know if I mentioned that, but he's pretty cool. He's a buddy of mine, and he has a pretty poppin' YouTube channel where he interviews people, but he also confronts politicians and stuff. He confronted Kamala Harris. He sort of has this old school We Are Change type of style where he confronts sometimes police and politicians in that sort of way and asks them questions and bombards them. So that's really cool stuff, really interesting. And then he has a lot of really cool stuff, and he's just a friend of mine. So I'm probably going to have him on soon. If you're watching this, Will Turbit, don't flake out on me, bro. I think I was supposed to have him on this weekend, but we'll see. I know he's been traveling this week, so I don't know if he's going to be back in time. But if not this weekend, hopefully soon. And then also I'm trying to maybe get a couple other people on, like Ramsey Paul. I don't know if you guys know Ramsey Paul. He's one of my favorite YouTube channels. He's a little bit different type of content than what I do, but just a really funny guy and really interesting perspective on things. Definitely like a right-wing type. So there's a few people I might have on, start doing more interviews. And that's how it's probably going to go. Other than that, guys, though, I do want everybody to, like, share, and subscribe this stream. I'm going to upload it also on BitChute, Odyssey, and Rumble tomorrow. And just so it circulates on those platforms. The alt platforms are very important. I saw someone in the chat say get on Rumble so you can say what you want to say. Well, I am on Rumble, but I just don't stream on it because you just get more viewers over here, man. It is what it is. But yeah, I should probably start migrating in that way somehow. Multi-stream on those platforms. I'm going to try to figure out a way to do that. That'd be awesome. Or just stream on those platforms exclusively. I might do that eventually, especially with some streams that I have to do. Actually, I already do that to some degree. Post videos and streams on the alt platforms because you can't say certain things on YouTube. So definitely subscribe to the BitChute, the Odyssey, the Rumble. I mean, there's no doubt about it. You got to go there. You got to go. And then also become a Patreon. Like I said, we're going to start doing maybe some other things with posting the link there so people can come on and chat. It'll be good stuff. So maybe some round tables or something. And so that's something I'm going to implement. Anyways, yes. As always, like, share, and subscribe. Drop a comment below, even after the stream. It's been Press. Keep your head up, stay real, and no fear.